Hi there, my name is Anne. Today I'm gonna show you how to unbox and install the Silver Reed LK150 knitting machine. As you can see on the box, it's a mid-gauge knitting machine with a needle space of 6.5 mm. This means that the ideal yarn to use is DK or worsted. Now, let's begin. First of all, we have the manual. We're gonna put it aside because I'm gonna show you everything so you can start knitting within 5 minutes. You may notice that not every little part of the machine is still in the box. That's because this isn't the first time I've unboxed my machine. I give knitting workshops, so my LK150s are packed and unpacked quite often. In the middle of the box you can see the carriage. Simply straighten the handle until you hear a small click. To remove the carriage from the knitting machine, you just pull this small button and you can pick up the carriage. The base of everything is to place our knitting machine correctly on the table. If you flip the machine over, you'll see that you can extend it on both sides. Just press the button and slide it to the side. This allows the carriage to pass all the needles, so you can use all of them. This can be useful when you're knitting a scarf or a sweater, for example. We use two clamps to secure our knitting machine to the table. There are slots on the bottom of the machine for placing these clamps. Just position your knitting machine on the table, slide the clamps into the slots and tighten them. Next, you can put the carriage on the knitting machine by pulling the small lever on top. Now we're gonna assemble the mast through which our yarn will pass. We start with a holder at the bottom. Then put the actual mast in the holder. Next you place this thing on the mast. I don't know if there's a word for it, but it's the thing with the two antennae on top, if you know what I mean. And finally, there's only one thing missing from our mast. It's a small triangle. It's actually a guider for our yarn. So, the mast is ready. Now we place the row counter on the knitting machine. There is only one place where it fits, so just click it into position. You'll see that every time the carriage passes the row counter, it counts. Now I'm gonna show you a box I made for myself and my workshop students. It's a very practical box containing only useful things for machine knitting. It contains accessories that came with the knitting machine, but also things that I find essential when knitting. First we have the cast-on combs. There are 3 of them. When you make small pieces, you only need 1. But when you make a larger piece, you may have to connect 2 of them. Of course, you'll need scissors when knitting to cut the yarn. This is a needle pusher. There are several types. This one pushes every other needle to the front or to the back. There are 3 transfer tools, a 1-3, a 1-2 and a 2-3. Personally, I only use the 1-3 transfer tool. Next we have 2 claw weights. They are absolutely indispensable when machine knitting. Then we have something that doesn't come with the LK150. It's a simple clip. Nothing more, nothing less, but so useful. This is a latch tool. It looks just like the needles of the knitting machine. One side is fine, the other side is a bit larger. A tape measure is useful for measuring your swatches, for example. And finally, there's one more thing. I don't know what it's called, it's just a little pin actually. I use it when I drop some stitches. It makes it easier to pick them up again. There you go. This is all we need to start machine knitting. But before we start, I would like to say something about the yarn we're going to use. If you buy yarn at the store, you probably have this. If you spin your own wool, you may have this. Neither of them is suitable for machine knitting. This is what we need, so you must rewind the yarn you bought or spun using a wool winder. When you start knitting, use the end of the yarn on the inside of the cake. If you had your wool spun at the spinning mill, you may now have yarn on a cone. This is perfect for the knitting machine. I'm gonna use the little cake to demonstrate how we put the yarn in the machine. As I mentioned before, we take the inside of the cake. The yarn goes through one of the small holes from the yarn guider. Then you go up to the tension dial. You pull the shiny ring aside and thread the yarn under the little plastic pin you see there. You come forward and insert the yarn through the hole. Then take the end of one of the antennae, by the way, according to the manual it's called a tension spring, and thread the yarn through the hole at the end. Now put a clip at the end of the yarn so it cannot escape anymore. All we have to do now is put the yarn in the carriage. You see a black piece of plastic in your carriage. The yarn must be on the left side of it. You'll hear a small click when the yarn is in place. So, we're almost ready to go. We really need to take a look at a few technical things. First, we have the stitch dial on the carriage. The stitch dial takes care of how loose or how tight your stitches and your knitwork will be. When you have thin yarn, put it on a low number. When you have thick yarn, put it on a high number. On top of the mast, we have the tension dial. This regulates the tension in the yarn. When you're machine knitting, the yarn must come fast and smooth. But the yarn may not hang loose, there must be a certain amount of tension in it. That's where the tension dial and the antennae or the tension springs are for. To give you an idea, my yarn is usually worsted and the tension dial is set to number 9. Finally, let's take a look at the levers on the left and the right side of the carriage. These levers control which needles are being knit. The levers on the left side for when you move the carriage to the left, and the levers on the right side for when you move the carriage to the right. I could give you a very complicated explanation about the positions of the levers, but I prefer to keep it simple and visual. That's why I want you to think about Pac-Man for a moment. That was a video game when I was a child. The yellow Pac-Man eats everything that comes within his mouth. So think about Pac-Man. When you move the carriage to the left, your carriage will knit every needle that's positioned between the levers. And when you go to the right, it will also only knit every needle that's between the levers. Now you're all set to start machine knitting. I made this video because I wish I had it when I started knitting myself. So if you find it useful, just let me know in the comments or subscribe to my channel. In the next video, I'll show you the most commonly used cast-on techniques. Thanks for watching and see you next time!